Okay, drum roll.
Alright, I'm going to pick out something. I'll just let Charity rumble for another 2 minutes.
I know, dang, and the audio's probably peaking.
Let's see, hold on.
Oh, that was a better symbol. Mine sounded like I was...
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Never mind what it sounded like.
Yeah. A lot of people think you're twins. So list some similarities and differences between the two of us.
Aww. Wait a minute.
Ooh, that's loud.
Unnecessary. Y'all need to turn that music down and focus on driving. And get off my lawn.
You're sounding very... The only thing we need now is we need to have our glasses kind of down here.
Oh, that would be fun.
What? All the kids these days...
Get off my lawn! Don't you know I'm recording a podcast?
Also, I made some cookies.
I made you some snickerdoodles.
Hey everybody, it's Sarah.
And it's Charity.
And welcome to
Bobbleheads on the Dash. So I'm super excited about today's topic, but I do have to note, there is so much space on this table compared to our last episode.
Yeah.
Because we had so many little trinkets and stuff, but that's okay. Because with today's episode and our topic, all you need to see is us.
Which is every episode, but
that's true.
Featuring a few.
Otherwise, you'd just be looking at our background here. But before we dive into today's topic, Sarah, can you tell our listeners where they can find out more about us and hear more of our episodes?
Well, you've obviously found us here on YouTube at the We Harmon Sisters channel.
You found Waldo.
So congratulations on that. But of course, if you want to check us out on the other social media platforms, we're also available on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, all under the same handle of We Harmon Sisters.
We Harmon Sisters.
Yes, sporting ourselves on our shirts.
I dropped hair. That's okay. We'll keep that in. I was cleaning up the table. Before we started recording, I was vacuuming our table because I was like, there's crumbs on here. I need to wash it.
Doesn't every table need a good vacuum?
Well, it wasn't like it was a little hand vac. So anyway, not that you needed to know any of that, but hey, you're just diving deeper into our lives and our crummy table.
Yeah, what do we do when the camera's not rolling?
We clean!
We start vacuuming tables.
Okay, yes. But today's topic, you drew a very interesting topic, and I'm excited to talk about it today because a lot of people, unless you've known us for a long time, a lot of people think we're twins.
Yeah, which I always thought was interesting because we look like sisters, but I don't think we look like twins.
I mean, obviously to us we'll look different, but I think it's also different too. Right now I don't have my braids in. Later on this summer I'll have my braids in, and I think when we have braids, I think that's when people get us confused. Otherwise, I feel like we look different.
Yeah, but
unless we're fraternal twins, which in that case it doesn't matter what we look like.
We should just tell people that. We should
we're fraternal twins?
We'll just say, well, we're fraternal twins, and just leave it at that, because they'll be like, that makes sense.
So, keep our secret, shh. From here on out, we're just going to tell people we're fraternal twins. Don't tell anyone that we're 3 years apart, okay? This is just between me and you right here, okay?
Me, Charity, and 5 million other viewers.
So, pinky promise.
I guess we'll link ourselves.
There we go. I'm doing your pinky for you. There we go.
Oh my god. The other thing is that people think that we sound alike, too. And I don't know.
I think my voice is deeper.
See, I always thought my voice was deeper.
No, mine is.
No, my voice
is deeper.
Actually, back to the twin thing, we always kind of joke around saying, yeah, we're twins, but we're born 3 years apart.
That's true.
That's kind of our... it's a good joke.
I mean, now that we're both adults, you can't tell. I think when we were little, like, there was an obvious difference between who was older and who was younger. But
it's always obvious with kids.
As far as our voices go, I feel like our voices are different when we're just talking between the two of us and the camera's not rolling, versus now we're kind of in presentation mode. And so I think like our podcasting voice or our TV hosting voice or
even our telephone voice.
Yeah, well, telephone voice is different. For one thing, the phone kind of messes it up. But I feel like when we're in video production mode or we're presenting or we're at the Orpheum or at Tallgrass and we're almost in performance mode, I feel like our voices are different versus when we're just chit-chatting and the camera's not rolling and we're not wearing a mic.
Yeah.
Would you say that's correct?
I think so. I think it's so weird because I almost kind of feel like, at least for me, I feel like I'm kind of the same. We both have
we both have presentation voices, but then when the camera's not rolling, we go back to our normal voices. But either way, I think our voices are separate.
Yes.
Like, you can tell if you've listened to our current podcast or our old one, Double Stuff podcast, I can tell which is which.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a weird thing, because I had thought once we've been doing podcasting and stuff, and because when I used to edit some of the episodes, sometimes I would purposefully listen to be like, okay, do we sound as close as what people think? And maybe, you know, again, we're listening to ourselves through our inner ear, which always sounds different than when we listen to ourselves, you know, in post-production, like even editing this episode or whatever, we do sound a little bit different than what we think we sound. But I don't know if I don't think it's drastic, though. I don't know.
Oh, no, you tell us.
Yes.
Can you tell the difference?
Write in the comments below and see, can you tell the difference
between our voice?
Even us talking at the same time, I kind of did that too. Because sisters don't do that.
Okay, so here's something funny that I think we even did this a couple weeks ago. You know, growing up, our parents, you know, I think any parent that maybe doesn't have a lot of money, when you buy clothes, you buy like 2 of everything. So I think a lot of the clothes that we had growing up were the same.
Yeah.
Or I would get your hand-me-downs. So very often we made dress the same. Yeah. But that makes sense when we were kids, because we were living in the same house. We had the same parents buying us clothes. You know, we were wearing the same things, hand-me-downs or whatever. But now we live in 2 separate places. And it's not like we're calling each other up saying, hey, what are you wearing today? But this happens more often than not, that we'll meet together, you know, we'll have a video shoot scheduled, and we'll both drive downtown, and we both get out the car, and we're both wearing blue plaid button-down shirts like we did a couple weeks ago for a shoot. Or
we've done stripes too.
Yeah, we both met for lunch. We were going to Chili's. And I was like, okay, I'll meet you there. So I meet Sarah there about 10 minutes later. We both have these striped horizontal black and white sweaters. And I was at work. Sarah was coming from her job. We were coming across town. And we both get out the car again. And I'm like, why are you wearing black and white stripes? And so here we go walking in. I think we both had braids at that time.
Yes.
So here we go walking in to Chili's.
Looking very twin.
Yeah, I mean, we already look alike because we're sisters. Now we both have braids in. We've got black and white striped sweaters. Our voice sounds similar enough. And very often, I know when we go shopping at the grocery store, we notice that we're walking in step with each other.
Got the same kind
of
gait.
So we probably do look like maybe the twins from The Shining. I don't know. But it is funny that even though we're separate now, we still somehow seem to dress alike. Like, we've got this weird twin vibe.
Case in point, because we're definitely not wearing the same shirts.
Well, aside from this, which wasn't accidental, but, you know.
Okay, yeah, that was deliberate. But I guess still in that same vein, we're still wearing identical shirts.
That's true. So we're not helping you at all, for those who can't tell us apart.
We're seeing double. But yeah, it's funny. And even with our other sister, Chrissy, not necessarily in terms of wearing the same clothes, but also kind of the whole, like, maybe thinking the same thing.
Oh, for sure. Well, I think sisters, or anyone that spends a lot of time together, you have a lot of inside jokes.
Yeah.
And I think we've mentioned this on the show before, where Harmons have a tendency to remember the most insignificant line or, like, weird parts of a movie.
Yeah.
And so someone could do something or say something weird, and then, or no, say something normal, but then we'll automatically think of something weird. And so all of a sudden we're, like, looking at each other, and then we kind of start smiling or giggling to ourselves, you know. So I mean, I think we do have that sisterly vibe going. But going back to the grocery store thing, there are moments where either Sarah and I go shopping together and we meet up with our younger sister or something, but we'll be walking down the aisle. And you know how I was saying, like, we walk in step? Like, it's one thing to see 2 sisters do it, but when you see, like, this row of, like, Charlie's Angels, you know, all 3 of us walking in step together, and then we both kind of look down at our feet, and we're like, we're doing it again. So that does happen fairly often.
Yeah, it's funny that we do tend to bump into each other going shopping. There was one time, I'm sure we probably scared the guy. Me and Charity had gone to the store, and then
I remember this.
In the distance we hear
the faint cry
or the faint laughter of Christy. And that's the other thing with our family. We have which you've already heard a few of ours. We have very loud laughter. And it's very distinctive. Like you
can find us in a crowd.
Yes. And this is actually what happened. So we were at the store, I don't know how many aisles over, and we heard Christy laughing.
And we were like, Our Christie alarm went off.
Yeah, so then we're like trying to listen and we kind of do this, and she's talking to some guy, and so it's like while she's talking, we kind of do like
around
this.
the corner,
and then
and he's like, "I'm surrounded by Harmon."
It was funny because he was like, "Oh, there's 3 of you," and I know that startled him. All of a sudden, we're
He
talking.
wasn't ready for all 3 of us.
Yeah,
we are forced to be reckoned
You
with.
come in as like 2 other Harmon sister clones was kind of coming in. So yes, that actually happens quite often, and then it's even a double whammy when we run into our dad at the store. So now, so it's practically like 90% of the Harmon household at the store all having that look. There's a, I don't know how it works. I guess that's how biology and DNA and stuff work. But with at least the Harmon side of the family, so my dad's side of the family, we have a very distinctive like grin. And because there's different types of like Charity's able to pinpoint, like you can tell when it's like a good smile or like a tolerated smile.
Like if you were to see us out in the wild and you saw us smiling and laughing, like you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. I can tell the difference of like whether there's like a polite smile or whether you're actually laughing or you're just trying to be social.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can definitely tell when something's like really cracking us up, and then we're kind of like, like it's not cute.
Yeah.
Like when we're really laughing at something, it's not the little stock photo laughter. But for the most part, I feel like we have different smiles, and I can tell which is which. But I think that's just a family thing. But we talked a lot about similarities. So what are some differences between the 2 of us? And be nice.
I wasn't going to be any of it.
Just in case.
I don't even know what you're talking about. You're sitting there insinuating something I wouldn't even know.
I'm just saying. Oh, insinuate and formulate. Insinuate and formulate. Okay.
See, okay, so that's something that Charity does. Charity.
I told him myself.
Charity, in terms of her Charity speaks in jingles. That's the only way I can describe it. What's funny is that I've seen our dad do it, so it had to have been something that she got from him. Sometimes she would say a phrase or a couple of words or like that, and all of a sudden, and she says it either with a beat or she says it like those old like 1960s shoppers, like da 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 da. It kind of has that feel to it.
I do that.
And it's usually the same tune. It's so I will say, when Charity gets frustrated, she sings a lot.
I do.
So it's always fun to drive with her because it's basically a show-stopping musical. And
I guess if I'm singing, I guess that's me trying to be nice. Like, because singing usually puts people in a good mood. So if I'm upset and I start singing, then the level of anger goes down.
Yeah, so
then I'm not gonna like blah all over you, Or that's my theory.
Blah. You gotta sing it out, right?
Well, it's not in jingle tune, according to what you say.
Blah 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 blah. See. So
you need jazz hands.
In terms of personality differences, the angst in Charity somehow brings out tunes. And I already said in the Double Stuff podcast episode 4, by the way, that Charity, her face is a lot more animated than mine. So when she reacts... Which
isn't fair, because she'll get screenshots of something and like I'm either talking or laughing or whatever, and like Sarah's just sitting there smiling all sweetly, and then if I'm doing something I'm like, and then she'll take that as don't you why did I set myself up? Oh, I bet you anything that's gonna be the thumbnail for this episode. I can't with you. Here I am, just trying to tell the story.
I didn't even say nothing. I'm like, this is gonna be great. See, I'm also a mind reader.
The first time I at least remember her doing this was during lockdown. And, you're stuck at home, couldn't do our podcast, couldn't do our video shoots or anything. So we started telling stories in our backyard.
For Just Us Cookies.
Yes, Just Us Cookies. And so we would just tell funny stories, different things that happened to us, different memories or whatever. And so she would usually get a thumbnail of us laughing. And so the first thumbnail she used, I had like 7 chins. Like,
you did not have 7 chins.
Okay, 4. But So I was laughing, and I don't even remember what part of the story. You might remember the part of the story, but my laugh, it was kind of like my mouth, like, you know, when you have a puppet and they open their mouth really wide and like they have that half circle. That was the thumbnail she used, and so I'm looking at the camera like
that was the part when it was like 3, 2, 1, and we smile at the same time, and we thought that was funny. That was when that happened.
Oh, okay. See, her memory. That's the difference between us. Okay, we're
Cherry don't remember nothing.
No, I remember lots of things, but Sarah remembers.
Who are you?
Sarah remembers things down to like the last detail, and that's probably just because of her love of history. But I'll be saying something like, "Oh, what was that? We were talking to that one guy about the movie or whatever," and she's like, "Oh, we were talking to Alan about watching Jurassic Park," and she'll like give almost a word for word of the whole conversation, or at least a few sentences leading up to that, and I'm just sitting there kind of like dumbfounded, like I remember the scenario. And I remember we had a conversation, but like, I don't know.
I've always been good at that. Like, that was something that my mom noticed with me when I was like in first grade. I was really good at remembering dates, like historic dates, and all that kind of stuff. So it's been like that since the beginning, I guess.
Which I feel like I'm good at memorizing, which is different than having a good memory. Not that my memory is bad, but I remember in high school, I had a particular teacher, shout out to Bill Coleman, still one of my favorite teachers. We spent a good year memorizing poetry. We memorized like scenes from Hamlet and just different monologues and stuff. And so there were some days where I may have waited till the last minute, or at least the night before, or sometimes
the day of.
You know, yeah, like, because we sat, the way our desks were, they were in a U shape. And so he would usually start on this side of the room, because he would sit here and then he would start to the person to his left. My seat was here. And so as each person got up and said their poem, I would be sitting there reading my book. And then by the time I got to me, I would have to stand up and recite. And there was a couple times where I fumbled, but for the most part, by the time it got to me, I could get up and say it real quick. So like, I have a really fast memory, because we had to do Hamlet. We had to do the speak the speech as I pray thee. I had to memorize Ozymandias, which I still remember that poem. A lot of stuff by, anyway, we don't have to hear my high school repertoire. But like,
repertoire.
I memorized a lot of stuff either the night before or sitting in class. And like, they were lengthy poems and like big chunks. And like, I could look over it a couple times and then repeat it back.
See, I'm kind of like that, but with spelling. Because when Tara was talking about cramming and stuff, I had to do the same thing. Because you learn different vocab words, or vocabulary. I should have given the full vocabulary terms, and you had to be able to spell it and all that kind of stuff. And usually I'm pretty good at remembering that. And one of those days, it was either 4th or 5th grade, I had forgotten, or I had put it off. And one of the big words we had to learn that time was Ecclesiastes. And so I spent up until that, and then when we had restroom break and then come back, I'm like, okay, ECCLESIASTES. That's how I remembered it, with that bit of rhythm.
So, see, she does it too. She did like a little rhythm, a little song. Yeah.
Well, and I think we've been taught like that since we were kids, because we respond to music, we respond to rhythm. See if you've heard this well-known Billboard hit. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Do you remember the rest?
H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P.
L-M-N-O-P.
But they changed the alphabet song, though.
Yeah.
H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P-Q. They switched it. So that way you don't have Elamella.
Yeah, whatever.
We are of the generation of Elamella P's.
And this has been going on for who knows how many decades. But the whole thing is, it's the same tune to help us learn and remember and have
Twinkle,
quick
Twinkle,
recall.
Little Star,
Baba, Black Sheep. Yeah, unoriginality. Apparently, they're like, we can't think of anything else. Use the same tune. But it's the fact that we had to learn, in order to teach a child how to learn 26 letters, because that's a lot when you think about it. So learning it and using a very simple tune, very simple rhythm, you're able to have recall with that, or Mother Goose, a lot of Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse went up the clock. The clock struck 1 and down he run. Hickory Dickory Dock. Hey! So, but again, it's just we've been taught how to remember things using rhythm and recall. So it kind of makes sense that that's been ingrained in us. That just even as adults, I think that's just how humans are taught. So I don't think that's going anywhere, to be honest.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember. This was about 2-3 weeks ago. We had a conversation. This goes back to similarities and differences. A big difference between us is our love of reading. Now, we both love to read, so there's the similarity. The difference is what we read. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the show before. I'm the only one in my family.
She did it in the first episode of Dishwashing TV, if you want to listen to it.
Okay. See? Memory. Anyway, and we can keep this quick. I like to read fiction. I'm the only one in my family that reads fiction, while Sarah likes to read
nonfiction. I think maybe it's because I like history. I like learning about real events that happen. Now, it's not to say I don't like. It's not to say I don't like fiction.
A lot of fiction books are based off of true events.
Yeah,
real life events.
Well, you have historic fiction like Ben-Hur, for example. That's an example of historic fiction. Yep. Or as a kid, I do remember reading some fun stories. What the Medallion and the Bronze Bow.
4th grade. That was 5th grade.
Yeah. So like I said, I mentioned Ben-Hur already. So stuff like that that's kind of rooted, like it could have happened during a certain time period. That's kind of a cool way. But admittedly, it has been a while since I've read, since I've actually just sat down and read a good fiction book. I will say that. But I think it's just because I'm trying to learn like certain skills. I feel like I need to kind of do that in order to enhance some skills, like with comedy.
I got plenty of skills. I'm born with skills. I got skills oozing out of my ears. I just want to read for fun. Look at that! Look at all this skill coming out of my ear.
It's multicolored ooze. Look at all that skill.
I'm just saying.
I mean, but yeah, I will say, I wouldn't mind kind of giving a few stories a chance. I will say, maybe just because I've read so much nonfiction, the little bit of fiction I have read, I do tend to lose interest, maybe after the first chapter.
Only one chapter. It takes you one chapter to lose interest. Well, you ain't even getting to the good part of the story yet. Like, that's lead up.
Well, I can't even say... Maybe it's been longer than a chapter, but...
Such sadness.
I mean, heck, I even tried to read A Christmas Carol. I didn't get past, hearing all the bells.
You didn't get past Marley was dead?
Well, okay, I got past that. No, I didn't get past him, visiting Scrooge. I think I was on the cusp. But I never got to that.
And that's a hard one, too, because of our love for Scrooge, 1970 musical.
Albert Finney.
That's probably a hard one to do.
Yeah. In high school, because we did have to read a lot of more classic novels, I really enjoyed reading The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. That was 9th grade, so freshman year. I really enjoyed that. But, to be honest, I really haven't read a lot of classic novels either.
Which is also sad. Well, we'll have to, we'll stick a pin in that one, because I feel like we should have another episode just about books.
I feel like when it comes to cinema and, history, there's an interesting contrast between the two of us, because from a film standpoint, I love, actually not just film, but just history in general. I enjoy history. We've already kind of mentioned that. But...
I like history-ish.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's become a learned trait just because of the stuff that we do now. Now
I like classic movies. Like, we both grew up watching those.
Yeah, but also just because we're doing documentaries now, which is that's its own unique genre, documentary films versus like
Sarah watches documentaries for fun. I watch them when I have to. Now, I do like, as far as history goes, I like history in reference to classic movies. I also like history when we're talking about music. So, there's been a few documentaries talking about the Beatles or Dave Clark 5, or, when you're talking about, music from the 60s and 70s, or I think PBS did a series of, talking about music through the ages. I love learning about music, learning the reason why people, wrote songs or how people grew up, or, that part I love. So, I can at least say that. There's a certain moment, and Sarah's starting to recognize this because now that we're doing certain research or whatever, I will find history interesting
to a point.
Yeah, and then there's a point where the person might be talking a little too long, and then I slowly start to glaze over, And like I've done better. Like I know when the glazing happens and I'm able to like shake myself out of it, or I can ask a question to get me back into it.
Yeah.
But like if I don't have the opportunity to do that, if I'm completely glazed over and I'm just I can't get back. Which Sara, the longer the session goes, the more she's enthralled. Like she could listen to an all-day seminar talking about ancient Egypt, and then she'll still be there asking for more. Meanwhile, I'm like, it is past lunchtime.
Everybody's dead. Let's go for lunch. But yeah, so I guess the dynamic of history is a bit different. Because I do like the research, and Charity's like, you do the research and I'll do the camera work. It's kind of
yes, I love production. That's a good one as far as like our role as filmmakers in production. I love shooting. I love editing. I love storyboarding and putting stuff together. I hate script writing. I'll do it, but I hate script writing. But like watching, because I feel like that's the part where the creative and the artistic process comes in. And, you know, when you're telling a story and how you're crafting it, I could do for hours.
I feel like that.
But
well,
Sara,
I mean, they both, because you have to know what you're going to talk about, right? You have to know your subject a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying to be an expert in it, but you need to be aware of what you're going to be discussing.
Okay, but let me put this into perspective, because she's completely right and I completely agree. However, I will give you an example. Let's say.
Sorry, I'm already trying to prepare what you might be bringing up.
No, let's say someone comes to us and they're like, hey, I need you to do some research about the city of Wichita. Okay, great. Now, she could either bring us into a large room filled with books and newspapers and pictures and all of this stuff that's unlabeled, unmarked, you know, whatever. And she'll just say, you know what, have at it. Somewhere in this room, there's a story about Wichita history, go in and find it. Now, to me, that's overwhelming, and I just want to shut the door and say, you gotta be kidding me. Sara is like, the hills are alive! Like, she'll be spinning around like Julie Andrews, and she will love it. She will sit in that room and read and read and read until she finds various things of interest. Now, for me, if I'm having to do research, I would prefer someone to be like, hey, I've got these 3 books here. I need you to find some information talking about Wichita history and about fashions that happened in 1965. Bet, let's go. Like, because now I know what I'm looking for. And I can browse through, I can look in the index, look up Wichita 1965 fashions. And within maybe 20 minutes, I can at least have a couple chapters, throw together a quick script, make some social media vids, I'm good. That's what I can do. And that's the difference, because that goes with my attention span, what I can understand, and now I have a mission. But don't put me in a room filled with God knows what and just expect me to dive in and be like, yeah, swimming, history. That's the difference between us.
Granted, I'd probably be overwhelmed too, but I would just be fascinated by...
But once you got into it, you'd be like, oh, look at this. Feel the newspaper. Look how yellowed it is. Just... look at the old pic. Like, you would get into the nitty gritty, and I'm like, Sara, we've got 1 hour to get this done. We've got 20 boxes to look through, and you're talking about feel the newspaper. That is the difference, huge difference between us when it comes to history.
There is something about holding history in your hand, and yeah, I probably would.
That's great. We're on a time period. Feel the papers later. Feel the papers as you go through it.
That's why Charity's impatient at museums, because I like reading the plaques.
Okay. Yes. Oh, I should have mentioned this earlier. Yes. When I go to museums, it's like window shopping at the mall, right? Like, I'll look at things, I'm like, oh, that's nice, that's pretty. Oh, what's this? And I'll go to that specific thing, and I'll read the plaque or play the video or touch the things, whatever, and I'm like, hey, that was great. That was a great object. Let's move to the next one, and I'll window shop some more, and then wash, rinse, repeat, right? Sara will go into a museum, especially if it's like a huge museum. Like, oh my gosh, if we ever went to the Met or something like that, we would literally have to spend like a month in that city so that Sara can walk in, and she'll walk in and stop and stare at the thing and read the plaque and then stare at it some more and then want to talk to me about it. And then she'll be like, okay, look at this object. Let me sit and stare at it. Can you imagine the history? Look at the year that came out. Let's read the plaque. And then she'll step back and look at it. Oh, can you imagine? Wait, let me go back. Let me go back to this first one. Because I think it had to do with this one. Oh, yeah. If you look at these two, and I'm like, Sarah, the museum is about to close. And she's like, we've only looked at 3 things. I can't. This is another reason why I also like science museums versus history, because science, there's usually some sort of visual aid you can touch, there's a video, there's a demonstration. So like, I think there's a science museum in Chicago that I really enjoyed.
Well, that's the one where I almost got left, because I was really into, the bottom floor had an old, like, Nickelodeon, looked like an old silent movie thing, and I was in 8th grade at the time. We were living in Indiana, we went to Chicago for a field trip. Thankfully, my mom was one of the chaperones there, because I would probably still be in Chicago today, because I didn't realize that everybody had left and we're starting to get on the bus.
And she's still looking at the same thing. Like I said, oh wow, look at this. Look at the history. Yeah. I want to propose a quick game to us to see how sister-like or twin-like we are.
Okay.
So, on the count of 3, we're going to say our favorite something. So,
okay.
Just to see if we come up with something similar. So
I feel like it's one of those things that we would, but now there's a camera on us. I'm like, okay, now I gotta make sure. Because if not, I can't be a sister. Apparently, that's true. The stakes are so high.
Yes, you will lose your Harmon status if you get the wrong answer. Okay. So favorite cereal. Let's go favorite cereal. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Golden Grahams.
I should have said Frosted Flakes. I do like Frosted Flakes.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I do like Golden Grahams a lot, though. Okay, would you like to pick one?
Favorite musical. 1, 2, 3.
Singing in the Rain. Okay, that was an easy one.
That was an easy one.
Considering we literally just watched it. Okay. Oh, I know one. This will for sure get us opposite answers. Okay. Favorite female dancer. 3, 2, 1.
Eleanor Powell. Oh, okay. Eleanor Powell was my introduction.
Great dancer, though. That's a very good answer.
I actually saw her before I saw Ginger Rogers.
Yes, you did. I remember this.
Yeah, the big thing about Eleanor Powell is that people were like, she danced like a man, which was a lot different, because most people had the elegance of it, but she was able to hoof and keep up with the guys, but still being elegant with it. Mm-hmm. So, Eleanor Powell. Okay.
I said Ann Miller, if you could.
Ann Miller's a good one, too.
Both excellent dancers. Oh, Vera Ellen, the good runner-up. Anyway, this is not the classic movie female dancer episode. A movie you don't like.
Okay, I have one.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Heavenly Days. Eat, Pray, Love is a... I hate that movie.
Stand Eat.
Cinematography, great. The rest of it is trash.
Yeah, the food and everything, very well made.
It's a terrible film.
I'm not even going to elaborate because we'll be here for about another 15 minutes.
No, there's a movie called Heavenly Days. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. So there's some movies that have been done. They're really fun, done by radio personalities. So, people used to entertain on the radio before TV. So there was a group called Fibber McGee and Molly. It was a husband and wife comedy group. There was another one.
Of course, her story has a long history attached to it.
But in the same movie, you had another radio personality. You had Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, who was like a ventriloquist and his dummy. Then you had a group called a guy named Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve. So them as a group did 2 movies together. And as an ensemble, very great, very funny movie. The third film was just Fibber McGee and Molly, and it was called Heavenly Days. And I have tried to watch that entire film. It is dry as sandpaper. I've tried to make myself watch it. I can't even get past. It took a lot of work to watch the first hour of it. I don't know if it was the writing of it, or it's the fact that they're really good on radio, but maybe by themselves in the movie it didn't work out. I'm not really 100% why. I personally think it's the writing.
This one I haven't seen, so I can't weigh in.
It's one I've wanted to see because I know they did 3 movies together, and when I finally got to see the third movie, I understood why, even back then, it was a flop. So if it was bad back then, 80 plus years ago, I've tried to watch it now, and it's just as bad. Which is kind of interesting because there's a lot of movies that flopped back in the day that are huge now. It's a Wonderful Life flopped. Mm-hmm. Singing in the Rain was not critically successful when it came out. So that's not to say that bad films can't be good, but there are some that they're just bad no matter what.
I would say a follow-up to a movie I dislike is The Notebook. I remember I watched that in college, And for most of my life, I had heard like, oh, you need to watch this, you know, it's so good. And so finally, one Saturday morning, I was like, fine, I have nothing to do. I finished all my homework. I'm just going to watch this movie. And I wished I could get that Saturday morning back because at the end, I was like, I really sat here for however many hours and watched this ridiculous thing. So Eat, Pray, Love. Actually, I think my dislike of The Notebook would be first, and then Eat, Pray, Love would be second. Both of them having similar reasons why I dislike it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is some of the similarities and differences between Lee Harmon sisters. And on that note, I feel like we should cheers.
We're gonna clink heads.
Clink.